Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is basic video editing in Adobe Premiere, and that starts with getting your files off of whatever camera you're using. Now, I'm using a Canon Vixia HF G10, and the camera is connected via a FireWire out of the side, and it's connected to the USB. And when it comes in, it opens up automatically on my Windows computer with these folders. And I'm going to choose AVC HD, and then BDMV and Stream in order to find my files. Now, if you're working on a Mac, for some reason a lot of Macs don't like these MTS files, and you're going to need to download some sort of a converter. And I've found a few free online, but with any PC they work pretty good. The thing I need to do now, before I even open Adobe Premiere, is move these files to the location where I will place my Premiere project and everything else associated with my project for the duration of working on it. So I'm going to go back through here and find the first one, just checking it out here.
Very good.
That's not it. I'm going to see my thumbnails here. I've got some construction stuff. Here we go. Looking at Mr. Martin's class today. In the last 10 minutes of school, I went down to one of our Academy of Finance classes and just recorded some kids talking about their current project. So I'm going to take these 4 files and copy them to a folder. Open up a new My Computer window. I've got one here. And select my drive where I keep things, make a new folder, and call it demo, whatever you want to call it, so that you know your project, whatever it is. I slide these over. I can copy all of them with a Shift Select. Once they're on my drive, I can disconnect my camera, and I don't need it anymore. While that's copying the rest of those over, I'm going to go ahead and open up Adobe Premiere. We're using CS5 here at Lansdowne High School, and I'm going to make a new project. And on this screen, most of the stuff on this screen is kind of default information, and I'm going to leave it alone. The most important part is down here, this button that says Browse after location. That's where I'm going to tell this Adobe where exactly I want to put these files. And I'm going to choose my M drive and my Nicholas folder, and down here the demo folder I just created where those other files are going. And that's where my project, once I give it a title called Demo Finance, will live. Okay. Now, as this loads, I want you to think about Adobe Premiere Pro like a file cabinet, essentially. It has lots of files that we're going to bring into it, but those cabinet files don't actually exist there. They're cataloged there, and we can find them there, but they exist in the folder that is separate from the Premiere project. So once you create this project, you're going to want to not move any of those files later, or Premiere won't be able to find them. I'm going to use this AVC HD preset for my sequence. If you happen to have Premiere Pro 6, CS6, this process of choosing essentially what kind of material you're going to be bringing in has been streamlined a lot. You can pretty much choose anything. When you put it on your timeline, it's going to ask you if you want to change it. Tell you you've got it all wrong. I'm just going to choose this AVC HD, because in CS5 you have to kind of get it right. And then under 720p, AVC HD 720p 30, assuming that I've shot at a frame rate of 29.97. We're already getting too complicated. Just know you want to choose something that is correct for the camera that you're using, and if you don't know which one to choose, a simple Google search will find that out for you. Once I choose that, you don't have to name your sequence. Sequence 1 is fine. You can if you want to. It's a preference thing. You're going to see my Premiere here is set up a little bit funky for viewing, but generally it's going to come up something like this. where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main panels, and then we've got our tools across the top and our menus above that. The first panel, we want to switch right over to the project panel. All right, it tells you what your demo is. You can see there's one thing in there called sequence. Now that sequence is what's down here. It's essentially your timeline of the video production you're about to create. What we need to do here is bring in the rest of those video files that we copied over. So there's a couple ways to do that. I prefer the double click on the empty space method, or you can go to File and Import. It's just kind of a shortcut, double clicking the empty space. Because I put my project here, it went right to my Nicholas demo folder. And here are my folders. Again, clicking on one of them, top or bottom, holding shift, clicking on the top of them will open and import all of them at once. And they'll come into my project file. A lot of different programs refer to this as the bin, and I like that name for it because it's the container. It's where all your stuff comes from, right? And the workflow for editing in Premiere goes a little bit like this. Each project source file, 5 through 8 as I have here, is in the bin, and if I double click on its icon, not the name, notice if I double click, or if I click on the name, it wants me to rename it. Not a bad idea if you have a whole bunch of files, makes it easier to search through them. But just for working with a few files like this, double clicking them will open them up in your preview window. Now the preview window is fantastic because it allows you to view your files and also set in and out points to use only those portions of the file that you want. So I'm going to use my space bar. That is one keyboard shortcut that if you are working in Premiere you should know. Any window that you're working on, the active window, spacebar will be both your play and pause button. So I got a little walk up here into the class. Maybe I'll use that as B-roll or something like that. But for right now, I'm just going to go to the next one. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, so I want to find something that I really want to use. Let's watch this one.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
They have a stock market game, so...
Well, he said they have a stock market game. Maybe I'll use that. Let's look at the next one.
This is my stock portfolio.
Your stock portfolio?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you got in it?
No, because it's in the negatives. I don't want to tell you.
Oh no! So is this for the personal finance challenge?
This is actually...
Alright, so I did something while you're watching here. I actually set an in point and an out point, just so we could watch that. And I use the keyboard because I like it and it's really intuitive because it's the keys I and O allow you to set an in point and out point. Okay, so let me just see what happened to that last one. Let's record to continue. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now we're back into this recording on our Screencast-O-Matic as well as our camera. Looking back at Premiere, I have this clip here that now starts with Mr. Martin talking about what his class is doing, and he gives a pretty good explanation here from what I remember. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play
And that'll be an equal. These guys are doing...
and back it up a little bit. You can move this little blue cursor around as you like, scrolling through. There's lots of other tools and controls down here, but I'm just going to do it automatically with this. And I'm going to wait for Mr. Martin to start talking.
This is...
So when he says, well, this is, I know that's kind of the start of it.
Personal finance challenge?
This is actually the personal finance challenge will be
And
in
I hit,
spring. These guys
I.
are doing their own individual stock portfolio.
That even sounds better. These guys are doing their individual stock portfolio. So listening for the end of that phrase, April.
The personal finance challenge will be in spring. And that'll be an equal. These guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now.
I can check that with this button here that says go to endpoint. And then I'll just click that.
These guys are doing their own individual.
I missed it by a little bit, so I need to go back to my endpoint and just use my arrow keys to back it up a little bit. Try my endpoint again.
These guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now, and they're also working as teams to start the game that they compete against 1,600 schools up and down the East Coast. And we had somebody that was ranked 9th recently, right?
So I set an out point when he said East Coast because it sounded like a good natural pause. All right. And what I have now is this little clip selected out from all of the rest of this 2-minute and 21-second recording that I can click on my recording and bring it down to my timeline, and all it brought down is this clip here.
Well, these guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now, and they're also working as
From in-point to out-point.
They compete against 1,600 schools up and down the East Coast.
And it goes black. Notice that that got played on the right-hand side. This is my program monitor. So again, my workflow is to double-click on your icon, bring it in, come over here, find some good little clip of information. So let me go near the end here. This girl talks about some good stuff. Explain the screen to me.
Oh, this screen?
Set an endpoint with I.
Our budget project, we have to choose a car. And for that car, we have to get a loan. So you put in how much your car is worth its total. You put in your interest rate, which we decided based upon our grades. So if you had straight A's, then the interest rate is 3%. And sales tax, and then it breaks it down for how much it would be per month. And it just
There's my out. Okay. So I just set an in point for the beginning of that and an out point for the end, and I'm going to click on the image and bring it down. If for some reason I wanted only the image and not the sound, I can drag video only from this icon here, or just sound only from this icon here. And now, in my sequence, I have these two clips of Mr. Martin talking, and then the student talking. Now notice the difference between this frame here and this frame here. That means I didn't choose the correct sequence setting in the beginning, and for the most part that doesn't matter a ton. What I can do to correct it is select my files here, right click, and scale to frame size. That's going to bring that down to the right size, make sure I have everything in, or if it's too small, expand it to fill the frame. At this point, I just line up my clips. And if to do cuts only editing, that's all you need to do, putting shots next to each other. You're going to want to put them all the way, or maybe a second into the beginning. Here's your time code right here that tells you exactly where you are, and you can slide them around using multiple clips at once by dragging a box to select them both, or you can select them individually. We've only used one tool and one function that is selecting in points and out points, dragging them to the timeline, and putting them in your sequence. From there, you've made a video, and all you need to do is export it, and that's done under the File menu, Export, and Media. One thing you do need to make sure is that Sequence 1, this tab, you can see was yellow, is the one that needs to be selected, otherwise the export won't work. And then the last thing you need to change here is your format, H.264 with YouTube settings. If you're going to make a YouTube, H.264 creates an MP4 right there on the list. The preset, I use YouTube widescreen HD because we're shooting with HD cameras, widescreen mode, and I want it to go on YouTube. Kind of makes sense, right? And then you can either hit Q and it'll open it up in Adobe Media Encoder if you have that, which is nice, so you can encode part of your video at a time. Or if it's a short thing, you can just go right to export and it'll start doing it. It takes about 2 to 3 times as long as your video is. And that's all. Basic editing in Adobe Premiere Pro CS5.